Can I close this up? Okay, cool. Alrighty, we are on our third Fiyah Lit Mag after interview with Nia Davenport. We're gonna be focused on out of body. I'm super excited for this. So yeah, I forgot what my little intro was. I think we tested everything kind of already, but yeah. So again, my name is Christian. I go to AGDub, AGEEDUBB on social media. I'm the art director and the social media manager at Fire Literary Magazine. And what else I did? Oh, I edited issue 28, which was themed on belonging. And I'm excited for this conversation with Nia. And I feel like usually I think the hard part sometimes is to talk about ourselves. But it's like I feel like that's a more honest answer than like me trying to like just hype you up. So
Okay,
why
okay.
don't you tell everyone who you are?
Okay, I am Nia Davenport, also N.E. Davenport with my adult works. My adult science fantasy is The Blood Trials and the sequel, The Blood Gift. I just published the YA speculative thriller Out of Body. I am on socials at some variation of Nia Davenport. Twitter is Nia underscore Davenport. IG is Nia dot Davenport. TikTok is Nia Davenport. So I'm around. I write things in various genres and age categories.
I was gonna ask you why was it Nia Davenport on this book and E Davenport on the other one? I was like very
So
intrigued. I was like, what is this creative decision? Like
I
I was
feel
trying to
like
figure it out
okay.
beforehand, and then when you said adult, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like it was like a little bit like sticking to a convention that's maybe just ended up being obsolete and like a little bit like just like so on one hand it was I remember like tuning in on like a Victoria Schwab talk a couple years ago at at Sirens Con, and Victoria was saying how um B.E. Schwab is the body of adult works, and like Victoria Schwab is the name you'll see on like the YA and kidlit works, and just talking about how like science fiction fantasy, like the older dream has this history of being like incredibly white, incredibly racist, incredibly sexist. And so like while I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, there's been like some like authors before me who have like used initials who are female authors like coming before me, and I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe. So that was I was thinking about that. I let that get in my head, being like, if people see Nia Davenport on a book, are you automatically going to come with a misogynistic BS and just like dismiss it as, oh, this isn't real fantasy, this isn't good fantasy? But also that became obsolete because like readers find like the readers who were meant for the Blood Trials and now Out of Body found it. And when I say like the Blood Trials and Out of Body have like the best, most dopest readers like in the world, like they have like lifted like both books up and like championed them, and like I'm so super excited about it. So that was like background noise that just ended up like not even being a significant thing that I needed to think think about. But also my adult fantasy has like spice in it too. And my YA does not. So me and my agent also talked about kind of like having an identifying marker for like when people picked up a Nia versus an NE book, like they're like there wasn't the potential to cross wires there. And like for like if you're looking for like a kidlit book, like if you see Nia Davenport, you're gonna get like YA themed stuff,
The
versus if you
E
see an
version.
NE Davenport, without question, you're getting spice in that book. So it's just like just a good shorthand way for readers to jump jump into the story, like knowing the type of journey they're about to get up front.
That's real. I think that makes sense. 'Cause I was thinking about N.K. Jemisin, honestly. That was the first one that came up to me. I was like, okay, I see exactly what you mean. Um,
Mm-hmm.
oh wait, what's in the comment? I missed it. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna jump right into it. So, why out of body? Like, why this story?
Oh, why this story? So I feel like Out of Body at its heart is like it's a coming of age, but it's the story of a black girl like a suburban black girl existing in this like weird space that a lot of us suburban black girls, like me, I know, existed in, where like finding like belonging in a world that's like, it's not cool to be nerdy, it's not cool to be like sci-fi or anime loving, it's not necessarily cool to be like, I'm a suburban black girl either. And so Megan very much begins in that space, like thinking like her life is dull and like boring, and like she does it like she's like seeking this thrill. And she doesn't realize that like a lot of like what she's labeling herself as like not cool enough or not thrilling enough or like not exciting enough is a lot of like external opinions and ideas that she's internalizing. And so she goes after that, and this isn't a spoiler because it's like the cover copy, but she's seeking to define herself through like hopping from like friend group to friend group. And when she globs onto this girl who she's like, oh, she's like not necessarily radical, but she's like cool and like posh and like edgy. And she's like, this is the reflection of what I want to be seen as. But then it goes haywire, and she literally, while she's chasing for who she is in somebody else, she literally like gets snatched out of her own body. So then she has to like go through this journey to like get her life back, and along the way figure out that identity and belonging is something that starts from like within first. Like you have to like be comfortable in your own skin and like empowered with who you are, instead of like trying to like put on like fronts for other people and shifting your likes or dislikes according to like what you think is trending. And once she like realizes that, is where she like finds like, I guess, the internal like strength to be her true self and like fight the fight she needs to fight. That sounds so cheesy, but basically like fight the villains or the antagonists that she needs to fight in like the way that Megan would uniquely do it in order to like snatch her life back.
Yeah. And it also kind of reminded, I related to like vibes when I was in kind of like early high school, or like
Mm-hmm.
not like mid high school. My junior year, I went to, well, my sophomore year, I switched to a predominantly white school, or predominantly black school most of my life. And so it was kind of giving those vibes a little bit, like that trying to fit in sometimes with like how you fit in and how you feel comfortable, but then it's like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a lot of the judgment, even if you think it from the other black people or other POC people too, it's still like how you navigate yourself throughout these moments, and you're kind of like always like improvising, or the person named Mayfield Brooks calls it like driving while black, like we're always like adjusting as we go. And I feel like their book really, like this out of body, really kind of goes into that and shows that sort of, which I feel like almost every teenager has to go through. When you were talking about it, I was like, is there a way for the character to not have go through? I mean, not this specific event
Yeah,
directly,
yeah.
but like, you know what I mean? Just sort of like figuring yourself out by not trying things or experimenting. Or I really like that your book like explored that too, and let them be young and explore it too, and not make it in a way that's like, I don't know, like yeah, life is scary, but it's also worth like taking that risk. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just really like excited that Megan had kind of wanted to, I don't want to say reclaim herself, but it was just in a sense like I just remember at the beginning, like feeling very connected with her. As like, this is who I want to be, and I'm not, I'm not gonna be afraid to try to like bring that into play, and that may mean like whatever it means for me, but I'm interested in like finding that out. And so I was just like, this is such a cute. It almost like I was thinking about it. Is it like it feels? Okay, wait. I talk about it later. But cool. 'Cause I don't want to get
Okay.
off track. Because I was like, there's a whole bunch of things I could talk about. But I was just like,
Okay.
wait a minute. Okay, wait. Let me see where we at with the questions. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. I think this is interesting. So yeah, why the young adult route? And after that, kind of like more like why a novel and not like a novella, or like what role did those play in with each other.
So the funny thing is, I wanted to write YA novels before I ever thought I wanted to write adult novels, if you can believe that. Like I grew up on YA novels, and like even like past my teens and into like my early 20s and mid 20s, and even now, like I am still like all here for a phenomenal YA book. So when I started off being like I want to attempt traditional publishing, I wanted to publish within the YA space. Like it was never a question. YA didn't want me at first. The first novel I queried with was a Hades and Persephone retelling set in New York with a Black girl, and like I got like a lot of like we can't connect with the voice, or like there's no space within like this space, like this story has already been like told too many times, and there's no space. Of course, that it's already been too many times it's been told too many times with like white characters. So there's a whole level of publishing like not seeing the value or like the unique voice, or just that when you put a Black character in a story that's supposedly like well worn, it becomes an entirely different story and an entirely different reader experience. But sometimes publishing can't get out of its own way to actually see that and recognize it. So that novel ended up getting shelved because I can sell it. And while I was trying to sell it is when I started writing the Blood Trials, and I actually wrote the Blood Trials on like straddling this line to be like crossover. So we subbed it on both ends. We subbed it. LP was like, "No, you didn't. No, you didn't." In my head, I was like, "It could be crossover." We subbed it to both YA and adult editors, and I was like, "If it sells YA, it's gonna break my heart, but I will cut out the spice that's spicing." But then once it's sold adult, like that's how like hindsight is 2020. I realized what LP is like shaking his head to that novel was actually always an adult novel from the beginning, and that's where my passion lied with that novel. And I was just lying myself. Um, okay, so
No,
here's my
honestly,
thing.
they do.
While yes, you are right, I'm not the one to write it. Like there's levels and there's lines, and for me, that's like for kids, like why like teens to write themselves, right? I'm like, I'm not the one, like as a whole adult, to be like, I'm about to go here within this sphere. So because then it just, I don't know, it just seems a little bit weird. I don't know. Because I'm like the characters are teens. So I'm like, I'm all for teens writing their YA spice. I'm just like, as an adult, like my YA rom-com is spiceless. It's more so just like falling in on love, but that's a whole different conversation. But
I
yeah,
thought he
so
was
I
gonna
started.
meet up a couple of times
Hmm?
with Megan. Well, when Megan was in, swap with Ryan, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, now hold on.
Okay, so there's definitely so all of my books have romance, even my YA. It just depends on what level of romance you're going to get. So it's funny because with YA and Out of Body, like I was like, I want a romance, but we were trying to figure out how to make it not be ridiculous. Like she is unserious, like she just got snatched into a whole body. Why are you even thinking about? Why is thirst even on your mind? And you are in this harrowing, life-threatening or like deal. So we tried to like I really tried to like find that balance to where it was believable with Ryan, and she was like, okay, I'm crushing on this guy, I'm like digging him even though I'm trapped in his body, and this should be like the furthest thing on my priority list. um but no, so I wove it in a like subtle way, just because it was a thriller, and I was like, I feel like readers are gonna be like, Megan and Nia are both unserious, because why is this a whole full-blown romance, and she just her body just got hijacked and she's trying to figure out how to get back. Why are we going on this side quest to fall in love
I
right
was
now?
I was into it. I'm not gonna hold you. I thought it was gonna go a little bit different. I like where it ended up. I'm not gonna hold you, but I was like, teenagers.
So then the other thing is when I'm writing romance for YA and adult, like I try to be more cognizant of like what I'm reaffirming to young minds. And so while like adult, I'm like, oh, nothing is off the table. For like YA, I'm really like, what is this thing? So like, although like Megan and Ryan, they like start to like fall for each other. Megan is not in her own body. So like, I also had the like ideas about like what is consent. Like she's within a whole nother girl's body, and so like I was trying not to like cross like those lines as far as like Megan giving consent like as like the person like driving the psyche, but then the body that she's in not giving consent, as like the person's whose body Megan is in when she's, trapped there and choosing to do things or not do things. So that's definitely something I wanted to like highlight and like pay attention to as like well.
I think it really gave her like a sort of 3D moral appeal. It felt like she could still remember the things like her parents or her grandparents may have taught her. She's not too far gone to where she's like she has to like something bad has to happen for her to remember it yet. Like she's still kind of
Mm-hmm.
like I felt like that was kind of like some of the space that she was in, and she's like used to like high intense situations with the recital sort of like situation and like performing. So yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it worked well. Like it was like again, even though I thought I
Thank
was like,
you.
okay, it could have been like spicier. I felt like it was like enough spice. I thought it was like just gave him a little tug, and it was so interesting too because I was like, I wonder about these characters later, which is like always sort of like obviously you want, but I felt like that was a nice sort of YA touch too. It felt like complete, but also felt like, oh, what would it be like if we visit them like I don't know in college as a freshman or something?
Mm-hmm.
Like or could something happen randomly, lottie lottie. So I thought that was like a cool thing too, because it was like, okay, who that sort of 3D moral, like how does this art we've seen how it happened in the novel. I was like still interested in Megan like enough, like I wonder how that develops later on too in her life and how that fits her. Um, which was like is an interesting ending too. So it was just always going to be a novel, right? It wasn't anything shorter than that before or playing
No,
around with it.
I have listen for all of y'all that can write novellas and short stories. Y'all are geniuses, and like that genius is. I have not figured out like how to tap into that side of the genius of writing because every time I sit down and like try to like plot out a novella or a short story, like my worlds are like there's too many moving parts to my worlds and my plot, and I'm like, there's no way to write this within like a shorter word form. So hats off because I have no idea how.
No, that's real. It's I think about at the beginning of Butler's anthology Bloodchild, where she talks about how she struggles with writing like short stories. And like it's like a pain for her, but like sometimes the challenge was like attractive enough for her to like do it. It's like, yeah, I'm always thought of myself as more of like a novelist in big terms, but it's like I don't know, I've been attempting flash fiction and like short fiction a little bit more and like trying to use that to build myself up to create like a rhythm. Because I have some longer projects that start and then kind of like stop on them. And it's like sometimes I feel like it's like just that I don't know. What is it like the when you run a marathon, you need like the endurance for the longer pieces, like sometimes like that. I think it's just been interesting sort of having that like shorter flow or reaction or time to sort of like create something. But I think it's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, like you said, making it work, like really making it work. So like I feel like things always should be longer and like probably like give it more time, especially like because I love slice of life stuff. So I'm like, let these characters go to the park. Let these characters lay around in the bed. Let these characters listen to their favorite song and dance. Like I'm always like, especially when you really invest it, I sort of like in love in that. But yeah, when the short story, especially the Flash, you're like, you got to cut all of it. You got to unload the clip and move on. Like this is just
I have been leaning into the allure of like shorter forms because I have so many like cool ideas that I'm like, I would love to explore these characters or this plot or like this world. And until we learn how to clone ourselves, I can't write them all in novel form because there's no time. So like I've definitely been looking at like which of those ideas that I'm like, oh my god, I would love to write this like right now. Which one like might work in like a short or flash or a novella format as a way to still be able to like dive into those characters and create something with them.
No, I absolutely get that too. I've been thinking about, I was reading, I think it was Nisi Saw's essay when they responded to the blackout situation with all the writers and Fireside or some, I forgot if that's the right quote. Ooh, I'm really bad at, I'm not a historian. Please don't quote me. But I felt like she was saying something along the lines that when she went to Clarion, someone had told her that you write a whole bunch of short stories within the same universe, and you sell that as a short story collection, and then that's how you move on. But it reminded me of like you were saying, like this sort of wall where there's already these many stories like this, but like they're not seeing the difference sometimes in it because it's a black character and how they're navigating through that story. Um, but that's what I've been trying to attempt with the flash fiction and the short fiction and the longer stuff. Like if I got a longer piece for it, what does like a short in that look like? That's been helping me sort of like play with the idea, make it more concrete, but then also try to do it like snip like I don't know if it
It makes
worked yet. We'll see if it gets accepted and stuff, but it's been interesting to sort of try to play with that because like I'm always like this could be longer. Or I want to know more about this, or like I'm like one of those people, especially when the intro's really good. I'm just like okay, like give me the wiki because I want to know all
same.
of the details. Okay, so for the next question, I got okay, tell us about the like the experience of you writing it and then just getting it edited and then when it coming out, and especially after having the first book in the first book series. So it's like maybe like things you learned or something like that, or things that was different. Anything that you feel like,
um
well, I guess to like anybody who wants to be on their third book.
so it was a different experience from going from like writing like one fantasy to another fantasy because it I pivoted to like speculative thriller. And while like I write speculative, I've never written a thriller ever before. But before I sat down to draft Out of Body, so it was definitely like this learning curve, figuring out um how the hell to write a thriller to begin with. Sorry, I have a little one. It's okay. Trying to figure out how to write a thriller to begin with. And one thing I learned from like the editorial process is that like thriller editors are very like stickler for like these genre conventions or like hitting these like thriller beats. Like, I don't know, like the question has to be introduced within like, by the end of the first chapter. And then like you have to like introduce the red herring by like this point. And then you have to like have like these like twists and turns that are like coming, but you're laying breadcrumbs, but they're not necessarily like out of left field. And then like you're tying it all all together. So I think I've researched more than I ever have with the thriller. Give me 1 second. Let me go shoo the baby away. Hold on, give me a second.
It's no problem at all, I promise. Oh, hey Brent. Yeah, I feel like trying to make it more heavier. I feel like I always kind of use some thriller elements, but like to make it, I feel like a thriller is to have it. Like with Nia, some of those like key moments or key beats that people are expecting.
Okay, sorry. I got a new puppy, so both the puppy and the toddler was like, "I need your attention right now."
LOL. It's okay, I
Um,
promise.
yeah. But yeah, so I had to learn like how to write a thriller and like and I'm not it was weird because I'm not a stickler for like hardcore writing rules like you have to do this at this point and then you have to do this next thing like by like act two. So it was me learning the rules and like taking what I wanted to stick with and then figuring out like what I wanted to kind of like defy and then having that conversation with my editor about, okay, yes, I know this is how it supposedly is, but we're gonna take this alternate route and like this is why. Yeah.
Okay, I think that makes sense too. I thought it would be more different, I guess, from like YA to adult, but I think it being thriller instead of fantasy kind of like
See, for me it wasn't because I had been writing YA
right,
before.
right, yeah, okay,
And
yeah.
so the and like whatever I'm writing in, I read in that age category. So if I'm like writing an adult novel at that time, I'll read a lot of other adult things. So just I'm in like the tone and vibe and
The
mood of
headspace, yeah.
like the headspace. And if I'm writing a YA, then I'll read a lot of YA things. So I'm in that like voice and mood and headspace. So that switch wasn't as jarring as switching from fantasy to thriller because there was a lot of things I was doing like that was fantasy esque. Just as far as like the heightened melodrama that you see in fantasy, and a lot of my developmental notes were about making the character responses to conflict like scaling it down and not letting them have these like big exaggerated responses.
Okay. And it's because it's like more like urban thriller, like realistic instead of like, or at least that's what I'm thinking. Why?
That
Even though I felt like
that
Megan
that
kind of had a little, I felt like she was a little. I
well that
mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean like that's what I was like the gist of like I got when I was like doing the research and
yeah,
going through
okay,
editorial notes because it was more so like a contemporary urban thriller that I was trying to capture like emotions that were reflective of like I guess real life, like how like a authentic teen would react within that
yeah,
way. Whereas I'm used to like writing fantasy where like characters will go literally from 0 to 100, all right, like in like the flip of a switch, and it's perfectly socially fine and acceptable. And it's like, oh, this makes sense. So yeah, a lot of my editorial work was finding that balance between like
okay,
when like to have the heightened reaction and when to like make her reactions be a lot more subtle.
that's real. Okay, where we at? So our next question is, who or do you have a favorite character from the novel?
Ooh, so I have two. Well, okay. My I do have a favorite character. So my absolute favorite character is LC. And it's just because I love a good villain. And I love a good villain with a legitimate cause
Hmm.
and a villain that does terrible things, but they do. I feel like villains who do terrible things out of self-preservation don't get enough credit. Like that's normally I feel like in most like works, villains who do things just for like out of survival are the ones that get like just like castigated, right? But I'm like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like low key and like I'm low key an evil villain, but I'm like, if it's me or you, it's gonna be me. I'm sorry, that's who I'm picking.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, that's
like
real. And I think that's like, I don't think people are honest sometimes about like the reality of that. Like, I think
yeah,
we like to all be like, yeah, we're kumbaya, but you know, if, sometimes it becomes down to it's not like I don't like you, I don't care about you, but it's like the reality is like push comes to shove. Some people, it's like they won't fly away, they fight back. Um, I felt like that was like something that was interesting, and just like trying to LC to focus like on themselves when they feel like they've been abandoned by or abused by everyone else. And it was like,
Hmm.
how can I, in these moments of distress, still cling on to my sanity, like who I am? And while maybe each of my decisions may not be the best or like, I'm most proud of, but it's like I'm doing what's necessary. And even considering, I was like, even for a villain, they're considering trying to make it right. I was like, if I was in the run for my life, baby,
Right,
like,
right, right.
bring that. You
I
won't hear
actually
from me
made
at all.
it at all. I actually made
I
her
was like, she was
LC a
very
much better
nice.
person than I am because you wouldn't hear from me at all either.
And I would have put on an Oscar-worthy of performance if you would have ever came around. I was like, "Oh, this is nice for you," because I would have went all the way. But she
Same.
was on the news because it was like, "This not happening no more," because you didn't learn your lesson. I was like, "This is nice, like a nice villain kind of," because it
Hmm.
could have been worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could have been way worse in so many different ways. And I like how it had that sort of grimness in the background, but like you said, toned down for YA. It was like, I think it's for me, I feel like it's kind of important to also incorporate or like have context about the reality what's out there. It's like, sometimes I feel like kids like go in a little like shelter in a way. And it's like I felt like, I feel like what you kind of showed was like a PG version of like a Euphoria situation. Even though it may be somewhere in between both of those, like reality, but I like that
Hmm.
it's still, again, like I mentioned earlier, like they gave the character experimentation, they gave the character like taking risks to enjoy themselves and like or explore what that could be like. And I thought that was just like such like it was so subtle in the way you did it. It wasn't like super grimy or like this is a dark underworld where all the druggies go or whatever, or like even like having people who do partake or utilize drugs is like automatically negative. Or I feel like in your story it allowed that there's multiple types of Black people, and like considering the factors that could be in their lives, like not to use that as some sort of moral aspect against them. I really like how that sort of, again, I just talked about that 3D-ness of Megan was on display with that relationship with like the nice villain basically. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you read apart from the book, the
Oh.
LC? I mean,
um.
oh, well, do you want to talk about the second favorite character first or you want to do the
Okay.
read?
So I think my second favorite character is Sophie, the little sister, and it's just because
Oh, interesting.
she is like one of the characters that I didn't. She was a secondary character, and I didn't plan for her personality to come out like as big as it was, but she just like kind of leapt off the page from the moment like she came on page. And so she's just like this incredibly like smart, intuitive, like perceptive 8-year old, but she also takes literally no shit. And so I love how like she's both like smart and perceptive, but she's also fierce and she holds her own. And like she's the first person within Megan's life to like kind of like side eye LC and be like, something is going on. Even though like there's a small story there too, but because since she's so young, everybody just kind of like brushes her off, or doesn't actually like sit up and pay attention. And like Megan is the only one who like gives Sophie like the credit that she deserves to be like, she's smart, she'll figure it out. Like she like I need to like actually downplay this around her once whatever happens without giving it away. Once like Megan and her sister like reconnect, like she's the only one who like is like she is capable of putting two and two together. And so let me figure out how to like kind of like sidestep that.
Yeah, and just to double check to make sure, I believe like Megan is the firstborn, the oldest daughter, right? And then
Yes.
the
Yeah.
younger daughter. Yeah, I really
Hmm.
love those are my favorite relationships, honestly. Like eldest daughter, younger sister ones. I really feel like those should be explored more. I think a lot happens in that sort of imagination of like from like girlhood to adulthood,
Hmm.
that I just feel like that's why I was like, so I really appreciated that sort of slice of lifeness with their relationship, and then how they were able to contend with like that tension that was there, and then move on, like, once the reunification had come.
Hmm.
Um, no, yeah, I really like that was just one of the things I was like, because when I was reading, I was like, Megan doesn't have an older sister, or like they may got a cousin, but you know what I mean? It was just like interesting how she was navigating a lot of that on her own. And like
Hmm.
it ideally, with some parent stuff, but like I always when I was that age, I didn't even want my parents to talk to me about nothing. I was like, can I have some money? I need some clothes. I want to go to the dance. I was like, but all my friends was like, your parents so cool, like, la 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 la. And I was like, y'all just don't know. But it was just like, I don't know, at this teenage phase where I was just like, they just weren't cool with me. I don't know. I was just like, I don't even want to be bothered, honestly. But it was like, but then it was like, because I was the oldest person, I didn't necessarily, it wasn't someone that was like a little bit older, or that you could ask about it. And so I kind of like that with that experimentation with Megan too. Like, I feel like again that branched out her personality and her actions, because it was just like she had to she wanted something, and the only thing she can do to try to figure it out is like see what's around her and then take that step of like how she could with herself. And so yeah, I really appreciate that sort of like, I don't think people give the eldest daughter, who's sometimes also like the first son in these families,
Hmm.
that that dynamic, and how again, like you was like that, even that relationship, just keeping in that generational communication with the younger sister too, which is like, who knows how many like isolated or solely spoiled that character could just be, like, because the parents could, you the youngest, just like, as more tired or like more experienced about how they're going to deal with the kids and know what they get energy to, or like, they can just be at a certain stage in their life where it's like, this is the way to communicate. This is how parenting works now in the modern day, or whatever the case may be. So I thought like it was important that Megan had that, in this kinship. She played that role, and I thought it was like really
Hmm.
important. Like I feel like that eldest daughter role is like slightly looked over. It's like, but it's like it's
Yeah.
there, and it plays like such a huge role, I think, in how our kinships navigate, especially usually the matriarch ones.
It's so
Um,
funny. We started off talking about how like when readers will pick up elements that you don't intend. And I have an older sister by 7 years, and like it's three of us girls, and like I actually did not intentionally try to like make a statement about the eldest daughter, because from my perspective, I'm very much like the Sophie who had the older sister, that was always there to like hand down the wisdom and like look out. And then I'm like this, like now my mind is blown. I'm like, yeah, I definitely like wrote like the perspective of my oldest sister into Megan, like being the one who is the teen, both trying to like navigate through life, and like the tumultuous like years of like adolescence, but also like having that like pressure to be like, okay, while I know I'm gonna make my own mistakes, I have to be a role model because I have like a younger sibling in the house that like I have to like help like look out for, and like I'm partially like responsible for like the person that like they will shape up to be, or any like damages that like they like in, in like counter to like that's a new
she
aspect of like
generally likes
Megan's
her sister.
character
You know what I mean?
that
Like
I
she likes her.
actually yeah. Well, I
It's
love
like,
my
they
sister,
could get
so
into it, they could tit for tat, but I feel like she genuinely like, and not just, sometimes I feel like love creates an obligation, but
hmm.
I feel like they liked each other, even in the way that she was like, you're gonna run me this money or I'm gonna tell on you. Like, we can play this game all day, but you want to be
Yeah.
cool, I want to be cool too.
Exactly.
So I was just like, I didn't even think you were gonna pick. I don't know who I thought you were gonna pick, but that's interesting that you picked it. So yeah, if you want to read from one of those
Okay.
two, pick a
Okay.
line, or I
Okay.
mean not a line, but
So
like a section.
okay, I'm gonna pick the very first section because I think we get into spoilers like with LC's sections down the line. So this is actually like the opening of the book, but she can no longer delay the things she dreads. She eases a navy blue duffel bag from under the motel bed, unzips it, and stares down at its contents. The metal case on top is small, shiny, and a black square, something that might normally contain her charcoal pencils and blending stuff. She wants to shove the bag back under the bed and flee the motel room. She should destroy the case. She should hurl it into a river or a fire or grab a fucking hammer and bash what's inside to pieces. But she can't because she needs it. She needs it even more than the stack of cash buried deeper in the bag. It is time to act. She will not let guilt eat at her. So instead of destroying the case, she snaps it open and checks that everything she needs is inside. It is. Her phone buzzes, vibrating loudly from its place on the dusty dresser. She abandons the duffel bag on the carpet, wipes her hands against her jeans. They always feel grimy after she touches the metal case, and it grabs the phone. The dingy floral comforter reeks of cigarettes and must. She refuses to sleep beneath it. What time are you coming over? The text reads, so excited. Although she promised herself she will not feel guilty, her breath catches. The walls of the room seem to press inward. The girl grabs a second duffel bag from the bed. This one contains her sketchbook and enough clothes to last her a week. She hoists it across her back and then zips the other bag and hauls it onto her right shoulder. On my way, she types, can't wait. She grabs the motel key that hangs on the hook beside the door to turn it in when she checks out. After tonight, she won't be needing the room anymore.
You know, also like thinking about it after finishing it really sets it up in a way that I don't know if I realized that the first time. I feel like it's like one of those ones at the end, you're like, okay, this was like really getting us ready that like I didn't realize to like what degree. Just hearing you read it again, I was like, hmm. And also, really quickly, I want to mention is I love the way you do text on here with the bold.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like the text messages, sorry. I love that. I was obsessed with it. I was like, it was so simple, so easy, so like it was just right there, and it created a sort of texture on the page that huge fan of it. I was just like, I don't know why I was just going up for it like that, but
I cannot take credit for that the book's awesome design team
uh,
made that decision.
I was
But
wondering why you chose to use both.
it's something I struggle with because I'm always like, how the hell do I like indicate text on the page without it feeling like chunky or blocky or like interrupting the flow? And I'm always like, do you like put like the character name and a colon and then the text, or like what do we do? So that was that all of that credit goes to the awesome design team.
I thought that was so cool. I think it worked well. Like you said, it kept the flow, it added emphasis, and like it changed it gave like another way to communicate. And made it clear that that was a communication. And I thought it was like, I thought it worked throughout the rest of the text. Like, I was like, this bow and how it's centered kind of just worked really well and really smooth, especially for the voice you already had going too. I feel like it didn't like, it wasn't an interruption within that. Yeah, well, that was just the beginning. So it was like, I think that was a good intro too. I was like, that's kind of also, I think I want to speak on a little bit because it's like, I feel like we mentioned about the short stories in Flash. I feel like that first sentence, first line, first page situation is like so important. And I feel like what you just read, you really set the tone with that, like first line, first sentence, first paragraph situation. Um, I guess I'm asking like just what thoughts are like you have about that, or like how did you? I know you said you had to hit some certain beats with your thriller elements, but like
Mhm.
what went into sort of like I guess the choices with that diction?
So for that one, we're in LC's perspective, but like there was the clear choice up front not to name her yet. So you get like kind of this, you get this third person present tense, which I know is like a little jarring for some. Like I know some people actually you hate it or you love it, But I went with third person present tense to like make what she was going through feel immediate and like kind of like establish like a sense of both like urgency but foreboding and like that it was this harrowing ordeal that was coming. And then just in her interstitials, I tried to focus on shorter, choppier sentences, to like make her voice distinct from Megan's longer chapters, and just to show like how she was in this constant state of like flux or like this high anxiety state of like making the decision to do these quote unquote villainous things, but also feeling guilty about making a decision and then still committing down like that path, even though she's developed this friendship and this closeness with Megan that she didn't intend to develop up front. And that's like the source of the guilt because she's like, I actually genuinely love this other person. I genuinely care about them. And I know I'm about to literally, like, not even hyperbolically, but I'm literally about to destroy their life. And I'm making a decision to move forward anyways. And just like trying to show like how she's just like a wreck, an emotional wreck over that. Plus like just her past that she's trying to free herself from too.
And so with that, you sort of like bring her voice back or her like POV or focus back on her at the end of the chapters. Was that like intentional that you set this first chapter up like that to get a reader used to that? And also, what made you decide to either not make that like a separate chapter? What made you like kind of like a I don't know, like an ad medium or like you just it was like a little extra additional sort of situation. But I feel like me personally, I think it worked really well because it was like it gave like you did the with the techniques is able to be distinct enough, like you said, but it was like and I was just wondering like what was like was it your choice or was it editing choice to keep them together or separate or not separate them or like and things like that?
So the choice to separate them was an editing choice, to like separate them out and not like actually like label her interstitials. Um, we kind of like since it was a thriller, me and my editor worked kind of like super closely to like plot out. And I'm not a plotter, so this was also a first for me. Normally I'm a pantser, I open up a document and I just go. But we worked like we like hashed out like a pretty like beat by beat document that took us from the beginning of like the story to the end. So from the very onset, we knew that like LC would get her little interstitials. Um, and that we wanted them to like stand out some type of way. And I was just like, I just went in and was playing around with like structure and voice and like tense, and like point of view and perspective. And I ended up at first, Megan was third person past, and LC was first person present. And then it something about it wasn't like meshing. Like as I was reading through it, like Megan's point of view felt too distant, and it wasn't feeling like the reader was being dropped in as immediately as LC. So then I switched them both to be present tense, and made Megan's first person present since like she's the one like going through like the experience of having her body snatched. So um the goal there was like to kind of like have the reader feel like they were like seeing this journey through Megan's eyes. And then I switched LC's interstitials to third person present. So to keep that sense of immediacy, but to kind of like have the reader feel like there was this distance between them and LC to where they were like seeing this like movie or this ordeal unfold, to like this character who they hadn't been given a name to yet, or they hadn't like met yet because we don't know her name or anything else about her.
Okay. I think that's so cool. I think it really worked well. It was like sometimes I feel like sometimes in short stories they have like little breaks or like page breaks, but I like that it was just that space, and then it was like you boom, and then I like how, like I said, it has that same rhythm as that first preview intro chapter, and I like how it just comes back to me. I feel like it creates
Mhm.
a little floopy loop. Which no, I thought that was super cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, the next question is, did you know that Out of Body was going to be the follow-up after you finished the duology?
I oh yeah. So after I finished it, yes, I didn't know it was going to be the follow up when I started writing the duology because I didn't sell Out of Body until um like in between that process. Like I sold Out of Body when I think the blood trials was when I was working on developmental edits on like the blood trials after it had sold. So like I had already written it and was editing my way through it, and that's when Out of Body sold. And at that point, I knew Out of Body would be the next thing that came out. And it was one of those things that it helped me write book two of the duology because before it sold, like I had like all of these like massive like intrusive thoughts about what if this duology comes out and I never write another book again, or I never sell another book again, or everybody hates the duology, and then that's it. So it was freeing to have already sold out of body going into writing book two of the duology because I could like kind of like let some of the anxiety go over, what's next for me in my writing career. And I'm like, something else is already sold. So even if this like, and it did, but even if this doesn't like, do well, or even if everybody hates this book or whatever, I'm like, I can confidently be like, there's another book coming out where I can like roll the die one more time.
That's real. And so was that kind of like you worked on the first book, and then like you in between that you were working on Out of Body before it's
So I was writing Out of Body while I was editing the first book, but towards the later stages of editing it.
multitasking. Okay.
Um, Attempting to learning to. So I was like, for me, I can't write two things at the same time. I keep trying and it just does not work. And I cannot edit two different projects at like the same time either. I talk about this with a lot of my writing friends, and apparently, like the consensus is writing and editing takes like two different parts of your brains or two different like creative skills, and it must be true because I can write and I can edit like and like multitask and be like, I'm gonna write the first part of the day, and in the evening I'll circle back and work on edits or vice versa. But I have never managed even to this day because I keep trying to like be like, I'm gonna write this one thing earlier and then take a break and pivot to writing something else, or I'm gonna edit this one thing and take a break and pivot to more edits. I cannot.
That's real. I would agree. I feel like it feels different. I think one feels kind of like admin work, like you're going through the details, and then some. I feel like with the writing, it's a little bit more freestyle. You
That's
just kind of
exactly,
like,
yeah.
yeah. And it's like, because I've like, I had the admin work at my job. It's, I mean, like, can I get an assistant? I just feel like somebody. And it helped because you want to be organized. You want to keep it together. You want your outline to be like, so you can refer back to it and like, know where you're at and stuff. But it's always just like pulling teeth. I have to get myself really in the mode to like do it and like rev up because it's just like you
Same.
said, different switch. Okay, cool. What's our next question? Oh yeah. So this is like also just I think piggybacking off our conversation at ShyCon, but like we only talked about how you feel about representation and like what does that mean to you in terms of like you and your artistry and like your goal with your work.
So for me, I feel like we have books. We have books that have black characters, but I'm always like, we need more. Like regardless of how many we have now, we need more. And like I'm always an advocate for like a wealth of diverse perspectives too, because traditional publishing is sometimes like stuck in its mindset, like this is the one, right? And like this one is a stand-in for like every Black experience ever within the fantasy genre, within the thriller space, or within the rom-com space, or like whatever. And that is just bullshit. It's not true. And it's like we're not a monolith. And so I'm like, I love how like we've gotten like so many different perspectives as far as like Black characters and like across like all of the genres and age categories. And like I really hope we continue to get even more, because I'm like, we have some and it's not enough and we need more. So I'm always like, it's not enough and we need more.
I think that's a good model. You need to get that on a t-shirt. Like for real. Okay. The next question is, what can you tell us that or what can we expect from you in the future or like near or far?
Okay, so things that are announced are next May I am
I
putting out
like
a
that.
YA.
That little it was like in parentheses. It was like, okay.
Okay, announced
A little
things.
footnote. It was like,
A YA witchy rom com that I always describe it as Sabrina the Teenage Witch meets Gilmore Girls, but but with Black teens. And it's very much like a girl who's like half witch and half human. And she does not fuck with witches at all because they excommunicated her mom for like marrying her non-magical dad. And she's like, fuck y'all, absolutely not. But then she meets a boy and he's charming and he's hot, and she's like,
oh wow.
they go on a date, but she doesn't know that he's a witch until halfway through the date. And when she realizes, she's like, all right, you're cute and all, but nah, I don't fuck with y'all. And so she tries to end the date, but comes to find out not only is he a witch, he's like the equivalent of like a witch prince. And so he's uber famous and an internet celebrity. And when like their ship starts trending on like social media, she realizes like fake dating him could be the key to saving her family's struggling bakery. So cue the fake dating trope. They end up like going on like all of these like coven centric dates to like garner the publicity for like the bakery. And along the way, she has to reckon with falling in love with this boy and possibly like destroying her parents' feelings for falling in love with this boy.
We love a multi-motivated
I do. I
protagonist.
do.
It's like give me compounded layers. I'm here for it.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
exciting.
Yeah. I'm also in the middle of drafting
Okay.
the next adult thing that'll be the follow-up to the Blood Trials, but I have no clue how much I can and
Oh,
cannot say. But more adult things are coming too. With it'll make the amount of spice in the Blood Trials look tame in comparison. So
that's what we like to hear. Honestly, like you said, when you said we need more, I feel like that about Spice. I'll be
I
like,
agree. I agree.
we need more because it's like it's too tame. I was talking to Brent about his novella at the beginning. I was like, the girls needed that. They could have
Yep.
did a little more, but you know what I mean? I was like, they needed
Agree.
that.
I agree.
I was like, okay, they gonna go ahead and do it. They gonna do the damn thing, then we might as well go for it. But that's real. Okay, those are all that really sound exciting. Okay, so my last sort of interview question before we open it up to the Q&A is what would you say to yourself in the future when we bring you back for our next interview on one of the other books that you got coming out? We'll probably do an
um,
adult one now since we did YA this time. So the next one's gonna be one of the adult ones. So like, yeah, what would you say to yourself when we come back? We're gonna play this clip and you're gonna watch it and like, yeah, because I always like, not to do like, what would you say to your younger self? I feel like I don't know, it's a little cheesy now. So it's like,
mhm.
what would you say yourself to the near future?
I would tell myself to keep trusting the process and to keep like leaning hardcore into like the passion and the joy of this next adult project I am working on, because I think I posted this on Twitter like a couple weeks ago, but it's the first project since the Blood Trials that I've started writing with without even thinking about like publishing trends or like conventions or like who like it or who won't. It's like something that I've just been writing entirely for me and acting a whole ass as I do it, and I am 100% loving it. So I would tell myself to keep showing out, and keep going down that path with that book.
This was this is like I can't wait in the future to play it and see what you like, how you feel about it. That's the thing I'm so excited about. Everyone do this, they have these messages and like, because we don't know what's going to happen in 2 years or whatever, who we gonna like develop into. So I've been super interested in that. Okay, cool. At this time, if anyone in our audience, our lovely folks, has any questions, you can drop them in the chat or you can turn on your camera and ask or your mic. Feel free. Don't be shy.
I'm gonna pop up here. I was just waiting. Okay, there I go.
Hey.
Hey. I was like, I gotta make it for Nia. What can I ask? I feel like I can't really ask you that because we always talking, but
I
know. Oh, LP asked a good one actually. Ooh.
Okay, so that is another one that publishing.
Oh wait, can we say the
Okay.
question? Sorry. You want to LP asks where that secondary world Nolans MG middle grade which book at?
That is another
I just
one
added
that
the clear throat with emphasis on me. Sorry.
I love it, and it's not like it died on sub, but it's not dead because we're gonna figure out how to bring that back. So it's on my laptop without saying things that I cannot say. You have not seen the last of Nia and MG quite yet.
Okay, I'm trying to think of one. All right, so do you feel like you are where you're at in your career right now? Like, do you feel like that's where you predicted yourself being, like, I don't know, 5 years ago compared to now?
It's where I predicted myself being, but it's also where sometimes I doubted I would ever make it to. Like the days where I was like laying in the middle of my driveway looking up at the sky, like having an existential crisis. And my big sister was like, bitch, get up. What is wrong with you? Get your shit together and keep going.
Well, and the reason I asked that is because I remember. See, I'm doing this for the historical record here. When Blood Trials was being worked on, and it was like, I don't know if this gonna work. I'm like, it's gonna
work. Exactly. Where I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if it's gonna sell. I don't know if people are even gonna like this. And you were right, Brent. LP said the same thing because I feel like there was a lot of times I was in LP's DMs too, like, oh my god, what is happening right now? So I appreciate it all for keeping me going because it legitimately worked.
I see LP got another one.
It says, did that story about Afro Faye ever come out in the Don't Touch That anthology?
It did. So I actually lied. I have written a short story before because I have a short story
the truth comes out.
that I always like. Right. Thank you. I have managed to write at least one short story. It is in a Don't Touch That anthology, which is basically about like the growing pains of being a parent within speculative fiction. It's about a main character. She's a Black woman who is very much like the Black version of Circe as far as like, don't mess with my children. And so when like her dead husband's ruling family starts to come after her children who are next in line for the throne, but they don't want them to be, she turns into the definition of like the raging woman that I love to read in a fantasy.
And what publisher is that through?
That one was through, I think that one was through a Kickstarter, which don't get me in a line. A lot of amazing authors, Mike Chin, K.A. Dorr, and I suck because now I need to look it up, but I'm missing a very last author. But it was a group of authors that actually put that together and put it out through a Kickstarter campaign.
And once again, it's don't touch that anthology. Any other questions?
I'm thinking. We still got some time here. Okay, so for what advice would you give for new Black authors trying to come into speculative fiction on the traditional publishing side? Like, what would be like your top 3 things you would tell them that they should think about before getting into it?
So my top 3 things. Hold on, because this is important. I'm gonna close my door. My daughter came in and left it open. So the top 3 things I would say. Number 1 is literally fuck all the noise. Like legitimately, like fuck all of the noise. Like there's gonna be like a lot of just like publishing, like background noise, and like from agents to editors to other gatekeepers or whatever, to maybe even readers that's like, oh, this character is too arrogant, or like your character is too this, or your character is too that, or your worlds are too this, or your worlds is too that, and that's not true. Literally don't listen to it, and just like write the story that you're inspired to write, and that like is uniquely you, and that only you can tell with your voice, and stay true to that. So that would be one. Number 2 would be, me and Christian was just talking about this at the beginning, that like communities like Fiyah and NSS were just like so incredibly invaluable to me, where I found other Black writers who were on the same writing journey, to just commiserate over like the negative aspects of the industry, as well as to like celebrate the wins within the industry when you're constantly like bumping up against like moving goalposts and microaggressions and like internalized prejudices or just all out racism. So that's been like just like vital, like finding people from the onset, a community of writers that like got my work and got my stories, and and just like exchanging in this like dialogue around like their writing and like my writing, and just like uplifting and empowering each other. That's 2. And then I guess 3 would just be to have faith and just like believe in yourself, because I know me, like there were so many times where like I was like doubting, like, can I do this? Is this going to work? Am I wasting my time? And I tell this to my daughter too, because she's a creative on the classical ballet end. So much of the same hurdles that Black people in publishing she bumps up against those same hurdles in the classical dance world. And so we just had this kind of conversation about going after your goals regardless, and literally like creating a voice and a brand, or whatever your creative output is, to where you're taking what you want, instead of like kowtowing and being like, you told me I can't do this, therefore I cannot do it. But just like literally, like I think that's the reason why I wrote Kenna, like literally kicking down like the doors and being like, I'm here, y'all gonna let me in, like regardless, I'm not giving up.
I think that's some good advice. I've been to much of the same too. And like it always helps, like, so I think also here too, especially about finding like your groove or your community. I mean, because there's a bunch of them. It's Swiffer, there's Codex, there's Lottie Lottie, but it's like it's kind of like a therapist. You gotta go out there, swoosh around a little bit, and sometimes you look up and you get in, sooner or not. But yeah. You got any other questions? I got a couple that I thought of too.
I think I'm gonna let you go, Christian, because I'll probably think of one, but I'm gonna let
Okay,
you.
yeah, we still got time. My thing is, Nia, like, what would be something that I guess maybe that you're not doing now that you want to do? Like maybe like graphic novels, comics, like podcast scripts, or maybe like actual toys or animation, like what, yeah, in the sense of like it don't necessarily have to be related specifically to the stories you already have out or that you're working on. But I'm just was like, I feel like a lot of the authors also have like other talents or aspirations sometimes. And it's like I think writing is one of that maybe we really gravitate to because of like how it makes us feel, but also like it's the one that works. It's like it clicks through. It's like, okay, this is it right here. But yeah, what else is like I think maybe in your toolbox, maybe that like everyone might
I
not know
mean,
about. I don't
in
want
a
to call it
like
toolbox, but
perfect
like I'm just talking like your skill set. You know what I mean? It's like
two things. So one, in like a perfect like dream world, I would love to like embody my Ava DuVernay vibes and write and direct movies and TV shows. Which again, but it's one of those goals that seem even more impossible to than publishing a book. I'm just like, where do I even begin on that journey? Like, what connections do I need to make? What steps do I need to take? It's something like before when I started out writing novels, I wanted to do both. And I picked to focus on developing the talent of writing novels first because it seemed a little bit more accessible. Like I was like, I can at least find resources that steer me down somewhat of like a clear path about, okay, you got to write the book, you have to query the book, then you have to sub the book to editors. On like the screenwriting and directing side, I'm just like, it seems like this wild beast, and I just have not figured out how to go about attempting to see what and it's also one of those things that it seems like I need to live in LA to tackle that, and I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just always seemed that way every time I considered it.
allegedly.
Like
LA is
seriously
always
attempting
recruiting
to
people.
pursue it. So that's one of the things. Another thing I've started doing, so I used to teach and I transitioned out of teaching, but I taught high school English and biology for 7 years. And for the last 2 years, I've been designing curriculums for different school districts across the country. And I found that I love it. Like I legitimately adore it. I'm like, there's some publishing, like some parallels with like publishing BS that goes on as far as like what you can put in curriculums and gatekeeping there. But like, so I've learned the pains of POC editors from the curriculum writing end. But I like it's incredibly like fulfilling to be like I in like just this BS climate of like book banning and like curriculum like banning and like trying to like skew history that never happened. It's incredibly fulfilling to feel like I can at least play even like a small role in putting out diverse literature to students and like advocating for more diversity within their classroom.
That's real. I think also like what you said about screenplay writing, to me it feels like it's like similar to short fiction. Like sometimes it's like you sending it to the contest or like LP was saying, somebody in LA or you in LA to kind of or where they make movies at. Sometimes New York, sometimes DC. Et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I do feel like at least like they're like you can go to college and be a writer or be a teacher. I don't really. Everybody's like, if you get into the school, then maybe you could be a film star. But like, I feel like everybody's like, yeah, you can go to college and be a writer, teacher, journalist, whatever, whatever. So yeah, I feel that it does feel like interesting, safer, but and then in this time, it's I don't know. I feel like TV show and movies are like the new. I don't. I don't know. Maybe sometimes with the kid, I feel like sometimes with the attention span or like the context clues, like that skill. Not I feel like not being as prevalent. Maybe and it feels like, and not just me making an assumption. Like I don't have any data points, but I just feel like when I engage with people who I consider like younger than me, and I'm 33, it's like sometimes it's like they're missing that context clue skill where they can read around it and understand it or like understand, maybe if they don't understand like a specific word, but through the conversation they can gain meaning from it. And so like some of those in the critical sense are like lessening, like how cursive used to be a thing and now it's like nobody's doing cursive. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like movies and TV shows are, I don't want to say replacing the novel as like that like medium that I think used to be the go-to medium to sort of explore these things. But it seems like in the shift with the streaming, the apps, like we moved in like this TV show movie being like a forefront, I think, medium in that. But yeah, you got any thoughts about that? I didn't mean to even ask that, but
So for me, if we are talking about among like I guess the younger generation, I've seen just like from like my own kids and like the classroom and like my kids' friends that the graphic novel is actually the thing that is replacing like above and beyond like binging like TV and movies and reading longer form novels like from like let's see from as like my nephew and godson they're both 9 and in the 3rd grade and my oldest is 15 and she's a freshman in high school, so just from elementary up through high school we're in the era of the graphic novel and I love it for the kids and it's a medium where they get the visual component that you do with TV and movies, but also from what they tell me is like they can like they get the high or the feel good vibes of reading a novel, but it doesn't take them 20 years to do it in like the graphic novel format. They can sit down and read it in like a compressed amount of time. And it just seems to be like the format that a lot of kids are really enjoying.
did they have any like points of contention around like comics and graphic novels? Like why like the graphic novel over maybe to me what I would think would be more popular is the comic format? Or
So
I don't know if I interrogated
for,
that a lot, but
no, I don't think I've interrogated that. I think for like the kids in my life, they reach for graphic novels over comics because they're like heavy manga readers, and so they reach for like both of those to where they're not huge like superhero-esque stories readers, and so like they're just from their perspective, like comics equates to like superhero stories, even though they don't. Like there are other types of like stories being told within the comic medium. So that's why, but also just because like if you go into like their school libraries or their local libraries, the graphic novels are what stock. I don't think I've seen like many comics stock in the libraries.
interesting. I didn't think about that too, like where they have access to these books.
But it baffles me too, because I've tried to push so many comics into like the kids' hands because I'm like, y'all are reading graphic novels. I'm like, oh, y'all should check out Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Y'all should check out this other thing, and they just give me this blank look, and like, I don't know.
I thought that comic would be popular because I feel like it's short too. But yeah, and interesting, like you said, that
Exactly.
relationship to manga too, that sort of like graphic comic that the Japanese style do, and how that kind of closer relates to graphic novel instead of comic.
Yeah.
Was it GN style? Sorry, I don't know.
So the trade paperbacks kind of mimic the graphic novel style.
Oh, okay.
They at least for me, like because that's what I normally find at the library. Is like I won't find an individual comic, but I'll find like the trade paperback where it's like the first 10 issues are collected in something that looks kind of similar to a graphic novel. So I feel like that might be the gateway if you try to get people into more superhero comics. But because I've noticed like most of the libraries here, they'll carry like graphic novels of like, different superhero properties or whatever. And they tend to put them in the middle grade section too, which I don't understand, but they'll because they really shouldn't be there. But yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
A lot of people tend to equate animation as being for kids, which is not. It's a false equivalency.
So much.
Yeah.
Like, imagine trying to sit someone down with a child to watch Castlevania. That parent's gonna be so mad at you. They
But I think also in the realm of that, as a kid, you got to sneak and watch the good stuff too because it was cartoons. I
True.
feel like it kind of both because I used to like I was thinking about some of the comedies on Adult Swim. It's like I don't know if my parents knew exactly what was like if they would have been like. I feel like that about Rick and Morty. I don't know. I mean, I know Rick and Morty is so popular, but I'm like, do the parents really know what is going on Rick and Morty? Because
Once
it
you
looks
go
a
back
certain
and
way, but
watch Animaniacs LP, it is some wild themes and things being said in that cartoon, and it came on Saturday morning cartoons for kids.
on WB. Yeah, I remember that, and it's very interesting how they're able to like pass off things or like code it in certain ways.
Well, my kids can because I consume all the animated things, so I'm always like, "What you watching?"
Yeah. That's always cool too, because it's like I could never really talk to my mom about it. Had to be something very specific that we were both like into, but just general speculative. She wasn't like we'd go to the movie or like like she'd get the video game for me, but it wasn't like I can like explore that sort of conversation or even like in terms of like craft. It was just like that's that stuff he's into. So yeah. Okay, we got 5 more minutes. We got time for another question. Don't be shy. It's only going on YouTube. That's
well,
it.
since we talking comic books, like, okay, so if you got a chance to like write any comic book property, what are you picking?
X-Men, absolutely. And somebody please trust me and put faith in me to write a Storm story. Like I've been asking this for a good 7 years at this point. Like, let me write Storm.
And so it'll be like a solo comic, like Brent was saying, a graphic novel, or like it would be across a series of
I'm
like.
flexible. I am
You want it.
flexible. I will take whatever I am blessed with.
That's real.
All right, so if it was, I'm just gonna keep this hypothetical going. All right, so an IP that has like completely just disappeared off the map, that's like kind of obscure, but you get to pick any IP and you get to like run that thing. What IP you pick it?
Oh, that is any IP
Yeah.
that's obscure.
I mean, yeah, like you could like not obscure necessarily, but maybe like old. Because for me, like I would love to do Babylon 5, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's a hard one. For me, okay. So actually, mine is not speculative. So I will make that disclaimer. But give me Gossip Girl and let me do an all black cast.
Interesting. Even after the recent reboot
In Atlanta. Well, because that's what I'm saying. It was terrible.
Oh,
So
okay.
give it to me. Let me drop it in Atlanta and do an all black cast, and I will make it better than the first.
Who you casting?
Oh,
I kind of can see it and doing that, like going to Spelman or AUC, and like I kind of see that.
Now you are seeing
Yeah,
the vision.
I do. That'd be cute. You got your little Morehouse spinoff series.
Also, I would love to like in the speculative realm. I really love like what the chilling adventures of Sabrina did with like taking that property and making it like dark. And making it like putting like a dark like speculative twist on it. So I would absolutely again give me that property, but let me like tell a story from the perspective of Ambrose and I forget her name now, but the other black girl that was featured up on the show. Like let me run with them.
I didn't like how they had her.
I didn't either.
That was irritating me a lot. I was like, the only black girl don't like they beefing with the only black girl in the whole school.
Yeah,
we ain't got nobody else to beef with but the one black
and
girl.
it's such a compelling, phenomenal character that they wasted. Like they largely wasted her character.
I agree. It was a good. I'm glad she got to do it because, like, now I feel like we get to see her in more stuff. But yeah, I was like, this was very underwhelming. And this, like, all right, we got 2 minutes. Last question. If anybody got something, no pressure.
I mean, I could always top it off.
Brent.
Oh, LP got one actually. So boom, that's
Okay.
better.
Where can we follow releases? Twitter at Nia_Davenport, Instagram at Nia.Davenport. My website is nedavenport.com, and I notoriously do not update it, but I'm gonna get on my Zoom and actually. I just got fussed at. I have a really good friend who is a website designer and marketer, and I just got fussed at for my website being out of date. So I'm gonna get that together.
Coming soon. Alrighty, folks. I just want to thank y'all for coming to this. I sincerely like appreciate it. Our next one is with Santo. So that's gonna be cool. I'm super excited about that. And like I said, I'm gonna just like I was telling Nia, like Brent, like you said, just keep doing these, and I'm gonna try to put the list out sooner and just getting like confirmations from like future authors, and then for who people recommended, just reaching out to folks to see if they open and available to doing it. But yeah, I think this has been great. I just really appreciate y'all even like taking the time out to even come here and talk shit with me. Brent, we're plotting, and LP, we're plotting for Seattle next year for the con. So everybody just, mentally sort of just put it out there, because if we just happen to have a meetup, I think that could be kind of great. But yeah, I see y'all next month with Santo and the other stuff. LP, you said what?
I think he's trying to figure out like what we're talking about. It's the Hugo's next year in Seattle, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the Hugos are in Seattle next year, and then they're in LA the year after. So it's like,
yeah.
But Seattle, I feel like could be cute. I'm thinking Twilight. I ain't never been, but
I feel like Seattle for sure, but LA, I'm not gonna have no choice. It's gonna be ridiculous if I don't go to LA's one. So
so
yeah.
you're gonna make a return.
Well, yeah.
I remember you told me a trauma story. I understand. We're all survivors of the Hugos.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank y'all again. I'll see y'all soon.
Thank you.
Nia, I'll like DM you when it goes up on YouTube. I was gonna download after this. Okay, bye folks.
LP, I see this message. I'm about to DM you because I have questions now. Where are you going?
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.